Congratulations, you made it to the end of January, which is actually considered one of the longest months of the year. Now here on Her Standards, remember, whether you are thriving or surviving throughout January, we try to keep matters at least bearable for you by bringing to you inspirational stories about women you need to know. You see, one thing I love about this show is the fact that we profile phenomenal women who are doing amazing things to impact the society. In today's episode, we are privileged to have one of those women who is actually making major moves in the world of leadership and mentorship. We cannot wait to hear more about her story. Welcome to Her Standards. My name is Queen Tambori. Now, we are at the library and I'm hanging out with one of the coolest women you need to know here in Kenya today. I'm talking about Dr. Patricia Murugami. What do you need to know about Dr. Daktari, and why do you need to know her story? Well, do not go away. Remember, this is the show where we profile female role models, and if you're sitting on that information, there's somebody you know who needs to come on board, somebody we need to profile on this show. You know what to do. Get to our social media pages right away. Go to KTN Home on Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter. Alternatively, you can also look me up at Queen Tambori on the same social media platforms. Tell us about these people that you feel we need to talk about on this show. Now, allow me to introduce our guest for the day, and karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Quinta.
Good to finally meet you.
No, I appreciate it. I know we connected a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And thanks to Mary Onguko, my good friend, our excellent client, who you featured so eloquently recently.
Yes.
I am here. The power of, passing it on, networking
yes.
strategically, as a matter of fact. So thank you. Excellent work you're doing in raising the standards so that women don't feel entitled that they should be serving on boards, doing leadership work because they are women. No, but because the standards are up there. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You survived January, or you thrived in January?
I think for me, I've entered this year with a mindset of abundance, of gratitude, that waking up and saying, thank you, Lord, that I'm awake and able to jump out of bed and do what I need to do. I can't take that for granted, not after the last 2 years. So I'm thriving. Thriving because I think it's first your mindset, and then that translates. You know that quote I was telling my children, smile at the world and the world will smile at you. Sneer at the world and be sure the world will sneer at you. So, just setting out those, what the young people call good vibes, and then seeing how things will unravel.
All right. So Dr. Patricia Murugami, I'll call her Daktari or Doctari. I think that is the dialect that most Kenyans are familiar with. Is the CEO and founder of Breakthrough Leadership Transformation Group, also known as BLT Group, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So tell us more about that.
It's interesting, when I think about the journey of Breakthrough Leadership Transformation, I started my career as an auditor. An auditor, yes, with KPMG, and I really look back and I value the lessons I learned. KPMG, PwC, then consulting in Deloitte, then Bamburi, Strathmore Business School, and then I decided when I finished my doctorate that I think it's time to do more for more people. And after 10 years at my last stint, which was at Strathmore, I said, you know what, let me get out. Now what's interesting, in 2006, I was really searching for meaning in my career, trying to figure out my purpose. It took me many, many years, and I think that's one thing that people sometimes think, that seeing your purpose is instant. No, it's blood, sweat, and tears. And I remember doing lots of assessments, talking to a lot of people. It was even the days before the internet, but you had limited access. But I registered my company then because I needed a breakthrough. And little did I know that the name would actually unlock what people needed. And 2006 to 2019, almost 13 years later, then it was time to actually make it become a reality. So Breakthrough Leadership Transformation, we are a premier advisory firm. We are focusing on leadership, and we have a very different perspective around leadership, that it's first lead yourself. Because of being a John Maxwell coach, one of the things he says is, if you can't follow yourself, why should anyone follow you? So breakthrough is about breaking through what is holding you back from becoming your next best self. Leadership starts without a title, by leading yourself, then leading others, leading organizations, leading countries. And then transformation, that it's inside out. So that's really the meaning of breakthrough leadership transformation. And we're excited because of who our clients are becoming. I think that for me, when I watched Mary, I was like, oh my goodness, I can retire. Well, not yet, eh? But just seeing how people transform, how they own their spaces, how they solve problems, not only locally, but even globally. I mean, Mary is such an example in that space.
You've actually combined 3 of my questions into one,
Oh,
but you're not
really?
escaping.
Okay, please, ask away. I'm here to have the conversation.
Because you've talked about purpose, you've talked about leadership, and also the fact that you're able to jump ship, from employment, and then you decided, you know what, I need to go and pursue my goals of life. So maybe let me just kick off with one of the most ambiguous questions that we have come across, even personally, or as women. Because when you talk about a leader, there are many images that come to mind. Because we imagine that being a leader means, holding public office, or having a corner office somewhere, or having some form of influence. What, in your own words, what does being a leader mean? And what do you think are some of the misconceptions that people have when it comes to that term?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a great question. I think a genuine transformational leader is one who sets to solve a problem, to serve his or her people, and to leave them better than he found them, on a higher ground, what we call becoming your next best selves. And that housewife friend of mine is an exemplary leader. That housewife friend of mine is an exemplary leader, just like my client who's serving on a Fortune 500 board is an exemplary leader. The question is, what's the intention? Who are they influencing? How are they influencing? And what is the impact? Many times those who are stay-at-home parents always feel the grass is greener with all the corporate types out there. And actually there's some invisible wars that happen. Those who are out there in the corporate space are constantly wishing they could spend time with their families. I think my call to action is just be comfortable in the season you're in. Because if my season is to take a career break, or because of the pandemic I lost work, and now I have to figure out how to reinvent myself, and it means taking care of my family, figuring out our family budget, slicing it into a third because now our incomes are much less, making sure that my children can grow in terms of virtue and talents and even opportunities of how we think, then that's where my leadership role is in this season. And let me not worry about, so what happens when no, be fully present. Now, some misconceptions that I find from a leadership perspective is that a leader has only hierarchical power. So, chief executive, founder, awards, I don't know what, all those things, yeah?
Yeah.
No, I actually think that the real power is character power. In fact, in my first book, Rise, I have a whole chapter on who are you stripped of your titles. Because you see, many of us assume leadership based on my title. And unfortunately, when the title is not there, no one will pick up your calls, no one remembers what you did, no one even wants to engage with you because your entire presence was fixated on a title, Group MD, Chair of the Board. No, stripped of those titles, who's Quinta, who's Patricia, who are you as an audience? And I think that's an important piece because people always think that power is about hierarchy and stuff, but that's the biggest misconception I have seen. A second misconception is that leadership is for eternity. No. If I'm in this particular role, let me start with the end in mind. In fact, I remember I have a client who, when she gets into a CEO, and she's been a CEO on many, many companies, and she says as she joins, she gives herself a 3-year term. How many leaders have the courage to actually say, I don't want to be here longer than that, even internally to themselves? And they set out 365 days times 3. I am going to achieve the following. I'm going to try and shift the following. And when I'm done, maybe I'll consider a second run. If not, It's fine. And you see, purpose is, I am a Catholic Christian, and I find that purpose is a divine assignment. It doesn't come from nowhere. And for as long as you're conceived, even those babies who are conceived in their mother's wombs and the mothers are watching this show, that child from the moment of conception already has purpose. Now, how do you find it?
How do you
detect
unlock it? Yes.
Now, the word is detect and unlock. I like your word, which already means it is there. First, that's a first myth, that I have no purpose. No, you have. Everybody has. We're just trying to figure out how to detect and how to unlock it. The second thing, and I write about it also in my first book, Rise, because it's a big issue around how do you raise yourself for a higher purpose. And our Rise School, which I'll talk about later, is anchored on helping people understand their purpose, figure it out, and live it. Now, think about the spaces where you have felt irritated, angry, hurt, that something is not working in that space. That's a trigger. And so chances are you probably saw your purpose before those 10 weeks. It just wasn't that clear. And you probably started to do certain things. So it's also to encourage us. Really? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes, but sometimes we can't quite read the writing on the wall unless someone points light on that wall. Then you're like, oh, it was there all along. So that's the first thing. You're irritated. Certain things have happened to you personally, or maybe to people close to you, and you can't shake off the irritation that you can't do something about it. You want to do something about it, you just don't know how. Your current circumstances don't seem to show you how. The job you have doesn't seem to be, in fact, it looks like it's a dead end compared to where you want to go. But actually, maybe you started even mentoring and talking to people, and you know, if that is part of your purpose, now I'm guessing here, before that 37-year point. But you didn't see it at that. You just felt, this girl has come to talk to me, let me help her. This other one looks like they're struggling, let me just shed light. This one, let me connect them. And you see, you're in media, so you're a super connector as a result, isn't it? So that's one piece, your pain point. The other piece is your passion point. You love to talk to people, you love to, now I'm using you as an example, you love to connect people, you love to hear their stories, you love to amplify those stories to other people, you, in whichever way. Maybe it's a chama, maybe it's a WhatsApp group, maybe it's Her Standards. And Her Standards, I think, is a culmination of many things you've done. And I haven't had a chance to look at your CV. Now, if I did, I will show you the trajectories.
Yeah.
But you see, your passion is your collective set of skills, experiences, good, bad, and ugly, by the way, not only the good ones, qualifications, networks, even your personality. All that ties up to your passions, and especially what you love to do. So take your passion and your pain and where they intersect, that's your purpose.
Yeah, because your purpose. Did you hear that? Take your passion and your pain
points,
yeah,
and where they intersect
is your purpose.
That's your purpose. And your purpose is never about you. So just in case we're here looking for purpose for it to be the $1 million jackpot.
I was going to ask you that.
No. Actually, your purpose is about others. Solving a problem that others have, that you understand intimately because you've experienced it, directly or indirectly. And so you'll find anyone who's in their purpose space struggled with those pains that they're solving for others in a very personal way at some point, or even currently at some point in their past. So purpose is always about solving other people's problems. And as my mentor told me, solve people's problems and the money will follow. It will follow. And solve it in such a way that you're so good that they can't ignore you. So good that people are queuing to get your services, to get you to serve on their boards, to work with them, because you've really sharpened your skill of how to solve that purposeful problem. Writing a book is like the hardest thing ever. Because you see a book, so people who read my book and all they write back is how they think I should have written it better. So I said, thank you very much. I show you your books, by the way, as you're busy criticizing mine. But it's okay, yeah? People, I mean, you find people can criticize a football match like they are players. Ask them to just do something with that ball. They can't. So you find people tend to be very critical. And sometimes as Kenyans, and this really I want to be in an election year, I think having traveled to the US and to see the American pride, I think as Kenyans, we really have to step up. We have to step up on being positive. Keyboard warriors and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the media space, so you know.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the media teams, you need a lot of detox because there's such negativity in terms of the stories that come across.
Yeah.
But I have found that when you go to other countries in Africa and they hear you're from Kenya, they're almost bowing down. And they're like, we don't understand what you're negative about. So it's a case of us not even knowing what we have. And when you tend to be critical externally, the inner critic is very loud, which is then what causes self-doubt to have a bigger hold on us.
Okay. If you're just joining us, we are here with the gracious Dr. Patricia Murugami. Today I'm just calling her Doctari. And I'm sure you understand why. It's just wisdom on top of wisdom on top of wisdom. But my takeout for this part of her standards is very simple. Do you have your own board?
Personal board of
directors? Do you
directors.
have your own personal board of directors? Do you have a few people who you're willing to be vulnerable to give you criticism, open criticism about the steps you're taking to improve yourself? Talk to me. I don't know, is it something that you're planning to do? Talk to us at KTN Home across all social media platforms, but you can also hit me up at Quinta Mori on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. We are just stepping away for we're taking a small break. When we come back, men, we still want to talk about, having girl clubs. Do we need to have girl clubs? We want to talk about having women on boards and where the challenges are, and also to still get to understand more about this amazing guest. Don't step away, we will be right back.